Arav used to be sharp. His teachers said he had potential. His friends came to him for ideas. He used to read for hours without even noticing time pass. But lately, something had changed. He couldn't finish a chapter without checking his phone. He'd open a textbook and somehow end up watching videos about things he didn't even care about. His days felt full, but his mind felt scattered. One afternoon, he sat in the kitchen while his younger sister colored in silence. He watched her, completely immersed, lost in the flow of what she was doing. No phone, no multitasking, just crayons and paper. "How do you stay focused like that?" he asked. She looked up, surprised. "Why would I stop? I like it." Her answer hit him harder than he expected. He used to feel that way too. About drawing, about reading, about learning. But somewhere along the way, he had traded depth for noise. That night, Arav wrote in his notebook, "I don't feel broken. I feel interrupted." And maybe that was the real problem. Not lack of intelligence, not laziness, just too many distractions that had become too normal. The next day, Arav decided to track his distractions, not to fix them, just to notice. He opened his laptop to study, and within 5 minutes, he was checking new tabs, reading random news, opening chats, watching videos. By the end of the hour, he had read only one paragraph. That evening, he made 2 lists in his notebook. On the left, things that feed my focus. On the right, things that fracture it. The first list was short: reading, writing by hand, walking without music. The second list was endless: notifications, background noise, multitasking, scrolling without reason. He stared at the page for a long time. It wasn't just about removing distractions. It was about admitting how much control they already had. That night, Arav turned off all notifications for 1 hour. He didn't expect a miracle. But during that hour, something small returned. His breath slowed. His thoughts stretched. His attention didn't jump every minute. It wasn't perfect, but it was quiet. He wrote one line before bed: "Focus isn't about doing more. It's about doing less, better." And for the first time in weeks, he fell asleep without noise. Over the next few days, Arav experimented. He set small rules, not rigid ones, just limits that made sense. No phone during meals, 1 tab at a time while studying, 15 minutes of doing absolutely nothing each evening, just sitting. At first, it felt strange, boring even. His hands twitched for a screen. His brain begged for stimulation. But he held the line, and something began to change. He started finishing what he started. He remembered things without rereading them 5 times. He even noticed small details around him, like the sound of the birds outside, or the warmth of the sunlight on his desk. It wasn't magic. It was space. Space for thoughts to land. Space for focus to grow. One evening, while helping his sister with homework, she asked, "Why don't you look distracted anymore?" He smiled. "Because I got tired of being everywhere and nowhere at the same time." That night he wrote, "Focus is a place. You have to choose to live there. And maybe the world wasn't the problem. Maybe it was the way he let it inside. Unfiltered, all at once. One Saturday morning, Arav woke up early. Not because he had to, not because of an alarm, but because his mind was quiet and ready. He brewed tea, grabbed his book, and sat near the window. No phone, no noise, just the sound of a city still waking up. He read for an hour without looking up once. When he finished, he closed the book and smiled, not because the book was amazing, but because he had been there for all of it. Later that day, his friend called to vent about feeling unproductive all the time. Arav didn't give advice. He just asked, "What's the last thing you did without also doing something else?" The silence on the other end was the answer. That evening, Arav went for a walk without headphones. He listened to footsteps, wind, his own breath, and in that simplicity, he felt more clarity than hours of consuming ever gave him. He realized that distraction wasn't just stealing his time, it was stealing his presence. And focus, it wasn't a skill, it was a way of honoring where you are, fully, truly, now. That night, Arav opened his laptop to finish an assignment. Before starting, he paused, just for a few seconds. He closed all background tabs, put his phone in another room, set a timer for 25 minutes. Then he began. For the first time in a long time, he worked without checking the clock. The writing flowed. His thoughts lined up like they had been waiting for him to just show up fully. When the timer went off, he leaned back and smiled. Not because he was done, but because he had finally felt in it. Not watching from the outside, not fighting for focus. Just there. Later that night, he wrote in his notebook, "Focus is fragile. It doesn't shout. It waits quietly for you to come back to it." The next day, his sister was drawing again. This time, Arav sat beside her. No phone, no distraction, just colors, silence, stillness. And as they drew together, he realized something. The world isn't louder than it used to be. We've just forgotten how to listen beneath the noise. A few days later, Arav was sitting in the school library. He noticed how many students around him had their books open, but their eyes on their phones. He remembered being exactly like that. Every ping felt urgent. Every moment without stimulation felt empty. But now, stillness didn't scare him. It felt like home. That afternoon, his teacher asked him to speak in front of the class about one habit that changed your life. He stood up, looked at the room, and said simply, "I stopped letting everything in." The room was quiet. He continued, "I still get distracted. I still lose focus. But now, I know how to come back." That evening, he sat at his desk and wrote a final note in his journal. "The world will never slow down, so I have to choose when to pause. Focus isn't something you fight for, it's something you protect." And with that, he closed his notebook, turned off the light, and sat in silence for a few moments. Not to escape the noise, but to remember who he is without it.